Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Adobo and Avocados. Today we have a very special guest, but before that, I forgot to introduce myself. So, my name is Marie,
Nailing it.
and today I have two of my amazing colleagues with me. So, who's gonna start?
I can start. Hi, I'm Nicole van der Hoeven, she, her, and I am one of the amazing colleagues that Marie mentioned, I hope.
Oh, there's two of you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hi, I'm Imma Valls. I'm the other amazing colleague.
Yeah.
Very nice to be here with you.
nice. So we mentioned on the previous episode that last week we weren't gonna do an episode because Nicole and I were speaking at different conferences. So just to recap, I was at Agile Testing Days open air, which was a really great setting for an outdoor beach conference, and I spoke about what this medley of front end and back end performance testing. And then, Nicole, do you want to just give a quick recap of what you've done last week?
Sure. I was at the Eurostar testing conference in Antwerp, Belgium. It was really cool. It was in a zoo, and the ticket also included a ticket to the zoo. But I wasn't talking about zoos or animals. I was talking about taking notes for testers. That
Yeah.
was fun.
One of my LinkedIn and Twitter connections, I think she watched, your talk, and yeah, she said that it was really great. Emna, I don't know if she said hi to you in
Yeah,
person.
she was the track chair for my talk, actually.
Nice. Yeah. That was yeah. It's great because I met her as well in person last November. And she does like sketch notes of like talks that she's attended. So yeah, I look forward to see what, sketch notes she's going to have, yeah, for next time. But yes, today, this was a very not impromptu, but we only came up with this topic like during the last episode. So during the first few minutes of last week's episode, not last week, but the previous one, we were talking about Nicole and I talking about tattoos, planning for our next one. And then, yeah, we just thought, hey, what if we can have an episode, about, what do people think of, tattoos in the workplace? Not just tattoos, but people with, bright hair, with lots of piercings. And it's great that, Ima, that you're here with us. So, it's great that like from different perspectives we can talk about, is it still a stigma, is it still considered unprofessional, by some other people. So maybe like first we can talk about like Ima, like your early experiences, with, I guess, like how you started in tech. Like, did you already had your hair dyed in this color, or was it like a slow transition? So yeah, I would be happy to hear like how you got started.
Yeah, actually, this topic started me thinking back. Like, it's really been a very slow transition because I started in tech like maybe 27 years ago. And back then, the conversation was not about can I dye my hair in bright colors, can I wear tattoos or piercings. That was a no, of course. But it was about how you had to dress in an interview. You could not be dressed in casual. So it has been a long, long time, and probably changing the type of companies I was working at, because I was working at very traditional companies like banks and insurance, where the appearance is more like, hey, you have to appear professional to a customer. So there's a dress code for men and women. So men have to wear suits with ties, and women have to be dressed not casual. So when I changed like 5 years ago company, and I joined a company where people could come as they were, I had already bleached my hair, so I was already blonde, fake blonde, because I'm dark hair. But then my hairdresser had been pushing me like, hey, I can dye your hair in these crazy colors, that would be great for you. And I said, okay, in this company, I'm actually able to do that. I don't feel it will have any consequences. So I started doing that, and I really loved it. So I wear my hair in so many different colors. even rainbow colors, very bright, and I really loved it. But think that still, if I had to go back to some companies, I would not dare appear in an interview with very bright colors. Or maybe after a while that you've been there, yes, but you have to get in there slowly, probably.
Yeah. How about you, Nicole? Like, when did you dye your hair, bright red? Was this like when you were working already, or like way before, or?
I had dyed my hair a few times before, but this current iteration, I had it like, I don't know, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It's my favorite color. And I was at the point where I thought, like, if it's my favorite color and I like it, then why shouldn't I be able to do what I want? I don't think it affects my work. In fact, and I wanted to talk about this. This was an unintended side effect. Purely when I dyed my hair, I was just I think I look at it as an expression of yourself. And just in the same way that some women like really are very fashion conscious, I felt more comfortable communicating how different I am, how different I feel outwardly, not with fashion choices, but with my hair. That's what
Mm.
I was thinking when I dyed it. However, because I've become a developer advocate, it has also inadvertently become a bit of a brand. So it is actually very useful when I go to conferences or something, because people might not really remember my face. They remember the red hair though. And it helps them, I think, come up to me like there's no like, hey, do I know you, are you they're like, no, you're that person who does this, right? And
Yeah.
I love that, because anything that helps people talk to me, I'm in favor of. If I can get rid of that awkwardness and get them to recognize me, if only to like talk about a shared interest that we have, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's so I would actually argue that if anything, it has helped my career.
That's a great thing to hear, because from what you're saying, there's a positive, effect after you've dyed your hair. But I remember, Ima, you shared like a story with us about like there's this person who said, ah, yeah, you with like the bright hair or something. I don't know if that was like a negative or positive story, but can you share with
For
us
me,
that story? Yeah, if it was a positive.
what Nicole just said, it's exactly how I felt, because the moment I bleached my hair and I start putting some colors,
Mm-hmm.
people remember me and were more open, like to talk to me. And I came from being very shy and introverted to being more extroverted. So it actually changed my character. It's like, how can I change now and be more extroverted just because of that? Because people approach you. And
Yeah.
this happened in my previous job at the bank. I didn't have bright colors back then, but I had every month I had my hair bleached, and then I put like a light blue, a light pink, but very, very light, so it wouldn't be too bright. And the bank was very big, like 30,000 employees. And one of them called and said, hey, Imma, I'd like to talk to you. Where do you sit? And said, hey, I sit in front of Albert. I said, oh, you're with the color hair. Oh, I know who you are. I'm coming.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And she didn't know me, but as Nicole said, she remembered my hair, because no one had this hair with a little bit of color. If they saw me now, they'd be like, oh my God, what's she doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was positive for me. I mean, I didn't feel it was a bad thing. But who knows how other people felt in the bank about me having these colors in my hair. I don't know.
Yeah. I love what you said, because it's all about like what and how you feel like at the end. Because like, for example, for me, I'm always conscious of how broad and big my shoulders are. But now that I've got like,
What?
yeah, I have this, like people have this like, so like body distortion when they look at themselves in the mirror. I just always see that my shoulder and is too big for my body. So ever since then, I've always wanted a sleeve, like a floral sleeve, so that I can feel more confident as well. And like at the end, like beauty is, subjective, to other people. My version of beauty will be different, to your version. And that's the beauty of it. Like, we're not just conforming to, a certain, single view of what, is beauty. Um and that's the positive side effect of, getting tattoos, like getting piercings, like getting, like bright colored hairs. But yeah, it's just great, to start this episode with all the, positive, like, effects. Like, it can boost, people's confidence, it can help, in our career. But maybe what we can talk about is this, stigma that a lot of people still have, especially in the workplace. There's this, maybe I can share um, my screen, because I found this like article. Share screen. This one, because if, people are biased against, people with tattoos, people with piercings, or, people with like bright hair, I think the greater impact to that is you're missing out on, talent. Because I've worked with, a lot of people who are, really talented, like engineers, and some of them, they have, tattoos. So um it's just one of those things that if you have this tunnel vision of only accepting people without, tattoos or piercings, then yeah, you're gonna miss out on a lot of talent. And these are actual, stats that, for example, um 46% of people, they feel that a visible tattoo will show a lack of professionalism, or it just looks, very unprofessional in the workplace. And interestingly, so from a recruiter perspective, 34% feel that they will be uncomfortable hiring someone who are even wearing clothing which is too casual. And then 26% said that they would be uncomfortable hiring someone who had visible piercings, and then 21%, for brightly dyed hair. So there's still a stigma definitely around it, but I feel that, over the years there's been an improvement. Would you say the same thing, Nicole and Ima?
I almost think that that might be for me a good thing because I wouldn't want to work for someone or in an environment where they would be turned off by something as shallow as the way that you look. So I almost think it's like great potential employers are self selecting because I wouldn't want to work there anyway.
Yeah, it's about, I guess, the culture as well, like we talked about on a previous episode. Like, if you'll be in an environment where you will feel judged, you'll feel, a lot of these, like, you'll be the bearer of like the different biases from different people, then it won't be like a nice environment, like a nice culture, like for you to be in.
And also, it's kind of like when you buy a book. Most people look at the cover and look at the summary at the back of it. I think that the way that I look and the things that I choose to show people, that is like the cover or the summary. What you see is a sample of what you're going to get. I am different. I don't fit conveniently in a box. I am a bit of a rebel. If you're not okay with that, then it's good that I've communicated that up front because we're going to have issues later on if you were expecting something else. So for me, it is also like a way of being authentic and communicating how I am before I've had any sort of relationship with someone like a company as a potential employee or whatever. How about you, Imma? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's actually, I think I already shared with you when I joined Grafana. One of the reasons was because I saw you and Paul at one of the office hours and said, "Wow, I feel like well, she is accepted there with this hair. I had similar hair at the time. I almost had the same color. That's nice. I will feel okay there. I mean, when you see a lot of diversity in a company, say, okay, I'm gonna in there. And for me, what I learned in my previous job is exactly that it boosts my self-confidence if I don't have to split my personality, being one person at work and one person in my personal life. So for me, it was important to be able to go to work the same way I am and
Mm,
be accepted for that, because then I can focus on work and I don't have to focus on, hey, I need to be careful with this and that and don't show this and don't show that. So
yeah.
for me, it gives me a lot of confidence if I can be the way I am. So that was great. It's good that you can filter. I think we can all filter companies like that now. I mean, you find
Yeah.
a company that best fits you or where you will fit in, and that's actually not a bad thing.
I love that because I think as well, like I've noticed, um, even though there's still, people who are biased about it, I definitely feel there's been, improvement. Like especially because maybe the generation now who's hiring people are maybe millennials or, people who are more acceptable. Whereas I think maybe before, like it's the older generations who are, hiring. And so there's, a bunch of, hey, you can't do this. Like before this stream, Nicole, Ima and I were talking about like, when we were at school. So I went to a Catholic school. Ima also went to a Catholic school. And
Me
there's
too.
and there's like this rules that hey, your skirt needs to be above the knee, and not sorry, it has to be below
Although
the knee,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
above. And I said to Ima that at my school before, um people would like, not the people but like the nuns, they would like bring like a tape measure just to measure if your skirt is actually below the knee. And there's just this also like rules that hey, you can't wear makeup, or you can't, have your hair, like especially for, guys, you can't have long hair. Like women has to that like they have to wear skirts, like they can't wear, trousers. So there's just, like so many rules before, but I think now it's definitely more relaxed. What's your view on it?
I also went to Catholic school all the way, like, you know, an Opus Dei school from nursery to high school, to a Jesuit school for university. I mean, I've since studied in other secular universities, but still, like, I definitely can relate to the whole uniform thing. And I also wonder if that in some way predisposed us to want variety. Because when you come from an environment that's very restrictive and it's like everyone is the same, is treated the same, which is never true, right? Like, we're humans, we're a spectrum of different things. Maybe that is in some way like why we are more drawn to expressing our individuality now that we're adults and we're not within the confines of a dress code.
Hmm. Yeah. It could be as well that maybe when we were much younger, so I was saying to Ima about this whole social acceptance thing, because we as humans, we want to be accepted, we want to be part of, a society, a community. So could be that, when we were younger, like it's not only recent that I've started, getting tattoos and piercings, but like before, um I will have the same view that maybe if I get tattoos, like people will look at me differently. But now, like obviously my views have changed. But I think earlier on, that whole social acceptance thing has played like a big part as to why, I didn't had, obviously tattoos before, and like not express my individuality. Because yeah, at the end, we all want to be accepted, we all want to fit in. So yeah, I think that has played a big role too.
Yeah, I think let's talk about that because we've been talking about, well, I've been talking about how the way having different colored hair or tattoos or piercings, that is a way that I differentiate myself. But you are absolutely correct when you say that everyone just wants to belong. And in some ways, I think a lot of my identity is also about wanting to belong to different groups.
Mm-hmm.
Like to so I identify as deeply queer in general. And I mean queer in the sense of orientation, but also just like I feel other, I feel different. And I think that a lot of these ways to express yourself are ways to to show membership in a group that kind of flies under the radar. There's something called queer coding, where there are certain things about the way that you look that you might use to communicate, like, hey, I'm not straight, or whatever it is. But it's also not flying in your face because it's not really something that you need to tell everybody. Like I wear a rainbow watch band. Those are things that are just like under the radar, and it's kind of like, if you know, you know. But it doesn't have to be in your face. Other people might perceive it as just having a hair color or that's a little bit different, but it means things to other people. And if it makes me feel good to be
Mm.
expressing part of myself in that way, then like that can only improve my self-confidence and help me interact better with others. There
Yeah.
have been some instances though where, like, when I saw Emma, for example, and she had different colored hair. I think well, actually very similar colored hair at the time, I think, when we met. And I was like, "Oh, I got you." Like I kind of, there was already that kinship, because it was like, "Hey, you're my people," like we already have something in common. So it can also create bonds very quickly.
Yeah. Can I just comment something? So you mentioned about, it it improve your confidence. So I was like saying this to Ima as well a while ago that, people who get like facial surgeries, like lip fillers, that's also a beauty, like a body modification. Getting tattoos, getting piercings is also a body modification. But then it's more acceptable to get
That's
facial
true.
surgeries. It's more acceptable, like if you go to an office and you have like, I don't know, Botox or lip fillers, they're not gonna send you home. But if they see
Yeah.
someone who has, lip piercing or tattoos, then their views might be different. But then it's still a form of body modification, same as getting, surgeries. Oh, but people have different views on both.
So Emma, I'd like to know, what is your, do you have like a line, when you look at other people, when you meet someone new, is there a line where you go from like, okay, cool, you're a little bit different, or maybe that's even a good thing, to like, whoa, that's too much? Is there something like that for you?
Unconsciously, for sure, because I think everyone has a bias. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone has a point that says, okay, I like tattoos, but not that tattoo, or not that so many tattoos. Or we all probably have that bias, but I think when going back to work, we should be able to say, hey, this is a work thing, so it doesn't have to affect how you think professionally of that person, and you have to work on that. I mean, one thing is in my personal life, I have my things I like more or less. But that's my personal life. But I should allow people to come to work with what they like. I mean, if you have a surgery to change your nose, that's okay. And if you have a tattoo, it's not. No, it should be okay. If that person feels better like that, everything should be okay. But we have this stigma probably of what the connotations that a tattoo has still,
Hmm.
that someone is less reliable, a rebel, someone who's not going
Yeah.
to be conforming to the team, or I guess it has these connotations that maybe changing something with surgery doesn't have. So I think we all have this, for me at least, I think I have this bias, like most people do probably, but it's trying to be conscious that not everyone has to be like you to have something.
Yeah.
So we can all find things in common. It doesn't have to be just based on the looks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that for me, it would be extremes, because I don't know how you would have extreme hair color. Oh, but for example, tattoos. I think tattoos are fine, but if every visible inch of a person's skin is tattooed, that wouldn't stop me from talking to them, or like giving them a chance. but the initial impression would be like, what are you trying to cover up? I feel like any extreme is kind of, it would make me more curious about their emotional well-being, because just there is something very psychological about having a tattoo. Like it or not, it changes things for the better or for the worse. Like Marie, you mentioned it helps you feel better about your body, about something that you're insecure about. I think that's a positive thing. If you're then covering your entire body with it, it's not a good thing to have that amount of body issues, and maybe you would still have them even with every inch of your body covered. So for me, like emotionally, I would worry about that from a place of empathy, from like caring about us, about someone. Like if you did that, Marie, I'd be like, hey, do you want to talk? Like, I have a number of of a therapist, or like I have a
Yeah.
site. Like, no, I would care.
I don't
What
know.
about
I hear tattoos are very addictive, so maybe some people just keep putting tattoos, and at some point they can stop it, but it might not always be an issue.
you?
They
Why
have.
don't you talk about your tattoos, Marie?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't think my mom's gonna watch this episode, but yeah, I got this floral sleeve.
Nice, I
Yesterday.
love it so much.
Yeah, so this is now my fourth tattoo, but I think for me, like, I really waited, to get tattoos, in terms of like I want them to have meanings. So every tattoo that I have, it's all, meaningful. But yeah, I guess in terms of like what is my line in terms of, the extreme. So I agree with you, Nicole. Like if someone has like extreme, like some people have like extreme body modifications in terms of like piercings, where they just basically change like the actual, structure of, their face. Then I think that's a line for me too, because yeah, I think, having like nose lip or ear piercings, that's totally fine. But if it's about changing your actual, I guess, like physical structure to, I don't know, like I've not that I've met anyone yet, but I've seen like, pictures or videos of other people with just, yeah, extreme, like body parts now that they have modified. So, but yeah, I guess that would be my line.
It's funny because I also recently got a tattoo, and I saw a tattoo artist that didn't have visible tattoos. And
Mm.
it was funny because I had the reverse reaction, because I'm like, wait, I'm not sure I want to get tattooed by
Yeah.
someone who has never had it herself. And it made me think just now of like how it might be based on the industry.
Yeah.
And personally, I think that when you work in tech, especially when you work open source, or, not like big, huge corporate companies, but smaller, more agile companies, you want some rebels on your team. You want some innovation. So, in that way, I think that I personally, I'm not saying everyone should,
Mm.
but I kind of am more, my line for tech is a little bit more towards like favoring people who are outwardly different than it would be for like a doctor or something.
Yeah.
And then tattoo artists would be like all the way on the end. Like if you don't have a tattoo, I don't know if I can trust you.
Yeah. It definitely depends on the type of work and the industry. So I was talking about this with my boyfriend. So he has tattoos as well. He used to have like a visible nose piercing, but now that he works as an account executive, he wants to get a nose piercing, but he's thinking, maybe if I get a nose piercing, like, clients that I
Mm.
who won't think that I'm professional. So they might consider someone who, you know, doesn't have visible piercings, who's more, I guess, in their eyes, more professional. So I think, yeah, it still totally depends. So if you're like customer facing, then maybe like people have more views about, getting visible tattoos or piercings. But yeah, I think in our line of work, um it's definitely much more acceptable. Like when I was at the conference last week, like so many people have, tattoos. One of the things that worried my mom when I told her that I was gonna get like a floral sleeve was, hey, but what about your public speaking? Like you're gonna be speaking, in front of people. Like, what are they gonna think about you? They're not gonna, think that you're professional. And so I had to say that I watch speakers, women speakers with, tattoo, and they rock the stage. So it doesn't matter if you have, visible tattoos or not. It's how you communicate your work, how other people value your work. But I can understand why in certain areas where it's still a stigma. Yeah.
Yeah, so like with tattoos, I started very young. So I have 6 tattoos, but I'm finding that people have only known that, or known that I was even interested since I got this one, because it's the most visible.
Yeah.
Um, I guess like that is one thing. I made mistakes when I was younger, and I don't necessarily stand by those decisions anymore. I'm very glad that at that point I had the presence of mind to get tattoos in places that I could hide. So I don't necessarily want to expose my like personal damage or history to everyone that I meet. So there is an element of like being self-aware and being conscious of the fact that I am going to be judged by the tattoos that I show. Like the reason that I show this one is because it's like one mode of transport for every country that I've lived in, which is totally like it's innocuous. It's very innocent. And it also like I love like when you were saying, Imma, as well, that you had the same experience with the hair. It is something that people ask me about, like, oh, tell me the story and whatever. And it's like a good conversation opener. But there are also tattoos that I believe I shouldn't show everyone.
Mm.
And it's good that we have the choice. I mean, you can put your tattoos wherever you want. But if someone wants to show them, it'd be nice if that didn't affect their profession, their work. So I think we're
So,
getting
Imma,
there.
you mentioned that you don't have tattoos, but I think I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you also said that you were thinking about it.
Yeah, I always thought about having a tattoo, small tattoo in my wrist, but I'm still thinking about it because I do a lot of swimming. I go to the swimming pool a lot. So I
Yeah.
know I will have to stop that until it heals, and I'm still wondering. It's more about health and or not being able to go to the gym than the tattoo. I think I like to have maybe not big tattoos, but small ones, yes, because it's something that it's part of who you are, and
Yeah.
you can always have something that you like to show.
On a side note, like, yeah, the aftercare for tattoo is insane. Like, I was told
Yeah.
that I can't go to I can work out, but like very light. So I was told, I've been advised, yeah, you can't do any like high intensity workouts for like 1 to 2 weeks. So for the next 2 weeks, yeah, it's just gonna be light walks for me, and yeah, healthy eating. But yeah, there's like so many rules that you have to like make sure, because it is like an open wound at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's exposed, so you need to really properly
Yeah,
take.
that's okay. Yeah, for me, I have very slow healing in my skin, so
Mm.
it'll probably be longer before I can go into the swimming pool. But maybe at some point when I
Do
have
either
something that also prevents me from doing that, maybe I'll use the time to do it.
do either of you have piercings other than the typical like one in each ear?
I don't even have the ones in each year.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I have quite a few. So that, and then I've got this one as well. But yeah, I just started getting these piercing like 2 to 3 years ago. But yeah, when I was younger, I only had the two. But then yeah, I think it's more of like, yeah, an expression, not just because, oh, hey, I want, to get like piercings done, but it's more of like, yeah, it's, an expression of like beauty, of, how you, want to, I guess it's like for fashion, like for some people. So I think, yeah, it's definitely still acceptable. How about you, Nicole?
So piercings are interesting because I also have a few on my ears, and I got them pretty young as well. And the reaction to them was pretty good. That
Mm.
people were generally just like, "Oh, okay, cool," you
Yeah.
know. And then I got my tongue pierced, and the reactions were completely different because for some reason we have these like ideas in our head that if you get something on your ears, that's like, that's still acceptable or whatever. You
Mm.
get something on your tongue and it has an immediate sexual connotation. And
Mm.
it's like, why? It's another part of my body. Why are some parts I mean, it is a body, it is a physical thing. No part of it is inherently more sexual than the other.
Yeah.
However, I did end up removing it, which is why I brought it up.
Mm.
And that was because of other reasons. So I had my dentist was not happy because the tongue stud was hitting up against my teeth, and
Yeah.
it was really severely chipping it. And I felt like this is one of the things where I was talking about at the point where it's starting to affect your health
Yeah.
or other things like that. That is the line for me as well. Like
Yeah.
that's the point beyond which it's too much. And so I removed it, but it still always amused me that location made people react to it a lot more differently.
Hmm. I think the only reaction to my older brother, he had his tongue pierced. Not yet tongue, but the only reaction that I can remember is from my mom. Like she was just so mad that, my brother got his tongue pierced. Although I think my mom gets mad every time we have, so all of us. So like she just says it like all the time, like all of my kids have tattoos, have piercings. But yeah, that was like an early memory of like my brother showing his tongue pierce, and my mom would just, go mad. But other reasons like sexual reasons, no, I don't think I encountered. Well, maybe because I was still young, but yeah, that was just the early reaction, like memory that I can remember.
I think it's so funny because I'm fine with tattoos and piercings and colored hair. I would never get cosmetic surgery ever ever. I don't judge other people, but like for me personally, I'm not okay with the thought process I think would have to go on for me to say like I don't like how I look and I
Mm,
need to change it. I feel like at that point I'm better off going to therapy, for
mm,
me personally. But also even like makeup, there is there is an expectation sometimes I feel that women should wear makeup, and I almost make it a point not to. I mean, sometimes I'll wear like because my lips are dry. Sometimes I'll wear eyeliner, but it is also a cultural thing. I find that in Asia, people don't wear makeup as much. And so when I moved to the US, everyone wore makeup. And I was like, whoa, you're talking about having sexual connotations. The act of putting paint on your body, that is, one might say, that is a way of signaling, attraction or wanting to be attractive. For me, that had more of that something like tongue stud, which is hidden for the most part. Most people didn't ever know that I had one.
I didn't know it.
But
I
even
was,
when I
I was,
had it,
yeah,
people didn't see it. You
yeah.
don't stick out your
It's
tongue
not,
that
it's not
far.
harming people. Yeah, yeah. But I was like, if I can sidetrack a bit, I think I shared with the both of you something that I found from Twitter. Um, it would be good to discuss
Yes,
that.
and
'Cause- yeah, because I think this is a great example of, how people have still views that, yeah, they're not gonna hire people who dye their hair like with weird colors, and that apparently it's a heuristic for unpredictable and self-centered behavior, which I don't necessarily agree with. um
Really, Nicole and
yeah.
I are self-centered and unpredictable.
Yeah,
Then.
but yeah, I saw this and my immediate reaction was like, what? What is this guy talking about? But yeah, it would be good to hear your views, Ima and Nicole, about this.
I think, I mean, for me, it's again, it's a bias. It's yeah, there might be people that are unpredictable, and you think that they are more of a rebel people because they dye their hair or whatever. But that doesn't mean that they can be hiding other things that show that, and you're gonna hire them. So, I mean, you can have huge tattoos, but they don't show because you have long shirts or whatever, or they are hidden, and you don't know about that person. So you actually cannot compare. I think that's just. Bullshit for me saying that. But hey, it's
Yeah.
good to know that we probably won't be working at that company because if
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
don't know that, we might not want to work there. So
I also question unpredictable. I got my first tattoo when I was 17, and it's
Mm,
something that at 37 I'm still doing. I mean, that's consistency. I actually, after I got my tattoos, because I thought, everyone always says you'll regret them later. Well, I'm
yeah.
37 now. I think I'm pretty sure what I like and what I don't like and who I am. To me, that is consistency. And if anything, that shows commitment. It shows like transparency about what your life is like and what your mental state was at, and an acceptance that things are going to evolve over time. I don't think it necessarily means that you're unpredictable. Maybe unless you go from completely blank slate to the next day having every part of you tattooed, that might make me be like, hey, what's going on in your life, um, but to say that just having a tattoo says anything about how predictable or consistent you are is pretty weird. I mean, people change, or most people change clothes every day,
Mm,
so in a way we're changing our appearances every day. I am the kind of person that doesn't care as much about fashion. Like, I have my husband jokes about it because I have this little black dress and I have 8 copies of it, the same style, because sometimes I don't like to choose what I'm going to wear that day.
yeah.
There's a comfort to the routine. So that's not that people, we never say like just because we change our style or whatever every day that those people are unpredictable.
Yeah.
How are tattoos any different just because they're permanent? If anything, that shows commitment and consistency.
maybe it doesn't mean like unpredictable, like I'm not consistent, but maybe people who know what they want and will not be easy to manipulate or to conform to the group. So maybe they don't want this type of people that are sure of themselves and they will say, hey, this is what I want to do because this is what I think is right. And I'm going to discuss this. I'm not just going to follow you blindly.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just you don't want this kind of people in the team, that you want a certain type of people. I remember one of my old managers at the insurance company, he once said, no, I really like to have some people like you, a few in the team, because you actually tell me the truth to my face and are not afraid to tell me how you feel about things, because I need to hear that.
Yeah.
Probably didn't want everyone to be like that, but you wanted some rebels in the team that actually would be able to speak up and say, hey, I don't think that what we're doing here is correct, or I would do that the other thing. I'm not afraid of you because you're the boss. I'm gonna see what I feel is happening.
Yeah.
But probably this guy is saying, hey, I don't want people that are gonna conform to the team and just be a team player and then
Yeah, that's a very good point. But having like a rebel, or having someone who speaks their mind, that's how you drive different awesome ideas, collaboration. So yeah, I think it's fair to say that he is missing out on a lot of amazing talent out there just by saying that yeah, if you have brightly colored hair, nope, no matter how awesome you are, I'm not gonna hire you.
That also, I don't know, I would see that I would never work for them or with them. And also that would make me think about what other things are you a bigot about? Because judging people based on race, do you also judge people based on race, things that they can't control? I also think that there is something about being a rebel, but that almost, sometimes I worry that that presents as a little too negative. I also like to think of being different as a way to foster psychological safety. I know that when I went from living in the Philippines, which is heavily Catholic and very strict, and I moved to I got to San Francisco, and it was a shock because in San Francisco, no matter how weird you are or how different, there's always someone weirder than you. And it had this interesting effect on me where I felt more free to be what I was, not to like push the boundaries, but just to like expand a little bit. And I do have the feeling that because I am very open about being different in many ways, I'm hoping that people feel a little bit more confident in confiding in me,
Yeah.
because I hope it comes across that I'm not going to judge. I hope that I'm communicating openness and tolerance. That's what I'm hoping, and I think that that's the case. But that is also a way to push the boundaries of the entire team and just make it okay for people to fit, in wherever they feel that they fit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really excellent point because like, Ima said a while ago, when she saw, you and Paul, like, instantly there's this connection that, hey, she's working as part of this team. Like I share some, like resemblance. And I feel like with us as well, like, I can just happily share like, hey, I'm gonna, you know, think I'm gonna plan this for my next tattoo, and like you do the same, with me. So
Yeah.
I think it made it has made like, the working culture like much more fun, much more, better. And yeah, it's just nicer like to work with, people who really are accepting of, what you are, of like who you are, and they don't really judge you if, like suddenly like you decide, hey, I'm gonna get like another tattoo, like, or something like that. So it's definitely a really positive experience, like the working experience, yeah, so far.
So it's funny because I was talking about my little black dress, and one of the ways in which working in tech has changed me, I've noticed, is that my clothing choice has also had to adjust. I don't
Mm,
know if either of you feel this way, but sometimes as a woman, I feel like I should dress more masculine to kind of fly under the radar a bit, because there are more men than women. And I know you've mentioned some things in the past too, Marie, and I have experienced it too, where if I'm dressing as a woman, sometimes I have gotten like unwanted attention or whatever. So I I do feel like should dress like, oh, I'm just one of the boys. Do you do either of you ever feel like that?
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Especially when I first started, working, and like, because it was in a government, project. And like I just remember like wearing a pencil skirt, and it wasn't even like, anything drastic. It's just a basic, pencil skirt, tucked in with, like a blouse. um and yeah, like I would, I remember getting a comment like about, my legs, about my, calves, like every time I walk up the stairs. So since then, like I've just felt like I don't really want this, attention. Like I don't really comment on how the way you dress, why would you comment about the way I dress? So since then, I just feel like, okay, maybe if I just wear what, other people are wearing. And I think this gets easier if you work on a project that doesn't require you to wear, like office, type of clothes. So, just wearing jeans, t-shirt, but then like I still have this thinking at the back of my head that if I wear a skirt or if I wear something different, that I would get some attention because of the experience that I had. But yeah. How about you, Ima?
Yes, yes, it's been especially like when I started to work, you were trying to blend in because everyone was guys around me. Used to work with everyone that was guys. They were dressed in a suit. I remember once at the consulting firm, I even ended up buying suits, women's suits. Like I would only wear them for work, and I hated them. It was like,
Yeah.
why am I dressed like that? But yeah, I felt more respected at work like that when I started dressing like that. Oh, you are more professional, and like, no, I'm as professional if I'm showing some parts of my skin. I mean, I'm a woman, I can be feminine as well. So, but yeah, I think that in the back of my mind, it was still like, yeah, I don't want to be seen as a woman that's feminine and people are going to like because she's a woman. I want to be seen as a professional, like all the guys that are professional. So I really had like two wardrobes, and I don't do that now, but I had like two wardrobes, and you want to work with the uniform, and then you go in your life with a different dress. Yeah.
So I had this experience once where I went to a conference and I I just wore like jeans and a shirt. And I happen to like black. Most of my stuff is black, so I had a black shirt on. When I got there, they're like, "Oh, we're actually giving out these shirts. Everyone that's part of the company should wear them so that people know like you're part of the team." I'm like, "Okay." It was white. And I had a red bra on, and that was like that's my favorite color. Like I have a lot of things that are red. And I was like, can I just wear this one? And they said, oh, no, no, it's fine. I'm like,
Oh,
okay. But I did, you could see the color, and it suddenly had this unintended effect. Like people commented on it. I'm like, well, I wore this under the clothes that I came in, that I chose, and it was not visible. Don't judge me because, probably the person who thought of white shirts was not a woman, and, and they're men. It's like it clings to women's bodies differently. Like that's not
yeah.
my fault, and it's another reason why I don't like uniforms, because my body's different from anybody else's. We're all unique.
Sometimes it's not even about what they say about you or something that happened to you, but how the comments you hear about other women. Like, oh, look at how
Mm.
she's dressed. She's
Yeah.
not a professional because she needs to be dressed like that to
Yeah.
like and so like her. And it's like I heard so many comments like that when I was working that in the end you say, okay, I don't want to be the person receiving these comments, so I'm going to just blend in here.
Mm.
Not even something that happens to you, but something that someone says and no one corrects it, and so it's like, okay, that's the what everyone is thinking here. So
Mm. That was very common in the Philippines, isn't it, Nicole? Like, remember, like, if you just wear shorts, like, they would say,
Yeah.
"Oh,
Or a
why?"
sleeveless top.
Yeah, like, oh my God,
Ooh, you're
she's
showing
yeah,
arm.
she's asking for it. And I'm just like, you
just
know,
last year, I heard something like that. A girl in a conference organization, she wanted to change to a dress to go
mm,
to the sponsors dinner, and one in the organization told her, don't complain if what happens to you dressed like that. You should be dressed like everyone else in the organization with a t-shirt. It's like, what? Because she's wearing a dress?
yeah.
Still happens now. So it's like, okay, that's
Yeah, I think that's why, like, it's just, I feel like it's safer to dress more masculine,
Mm,
because if I look like all the other guys, then, you can't blame me unless you're blaming yourself. company branded shirt or something. I just wish that some of the swag that's given, had like either women versions or I wish that they would take women's needs in mind. I don't enjoy wearing white shirts for that reason. I don't want to have to think like, oh, what color bra should I bring on this work trip just in
Mhm.
case it's seen? Like, you know, no one should care.
Yeah.
Can I just wear black?
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I like my default like color of choice as well. It's black, gray, anything dark. But it's just I just like it, the color. Um and yeah, like even when I was at the conference, um last week it was at the beach, but like it's still personal preference. Like I still wore like a dark colored skirt. I still wore like dark shorts, so it's just personal preference. And yeah, like you said, like people handing swag, like I think yeah, it would be great if they could also consider the um not the needs, but like just consider like, okay, is this appropriate for women to wear, not just the default of, okay, this is just what men would like to wear, so let's just assume. Which is one thing that we actually considered. So we have the K6 Champions program, and when I was working with Leandro about the swag, I was like really saying, if some people, they don't like the bright like designs, like some people would just prefer like simple designs on a dark t-shirt. So yeah, I think having those choices, yeah, it's it's a good idea.
They had like all the speakers that had their talks, and then they had like a panel, and they were getting some of the speakers to talk in the panel. And they had the setup there. They were like separate like stools, like bar stools on the stage. And then the organizer, I noticed that they were all men. And then I happened to be sitting next to the organizer, and he was like, oh, I was kind of surprised that not as many women, well, no women came and volunteered to be on this panel. And I was a speaker, so he was like, I just wanted to know, like, why didn't you volunteer? And I was like, because they're stools and I'm wearing a skirt. I
Mm,
don't have to worry about that. You're like on a stage, and
yeah.
I didn't want to have to worry about like what can people see, what can't people see. I didn't know they were going to be stools. I didn't know there was going to be a panel. I didn't choose clothes appropriately. So that's one way where the way that you dress, if people don't take into account different preferences for how you dress, that can really fall from things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think yeah. And I think this isn't just in tech. Like I know that, for example, like some certain uniforms, like especially like if you're in the military, I think I've read somewhere that like that the military uniform isn't really suited for the female body. So it's just a general problem that yeah, there are some things that are more comfortable if you're a man, and then if you're a woman, there are things that yeah, isn't really as comfortable. Like I read this book, I've forgotten the title, but it's about like the different um ways that the world is generally more favor towards men. And then she cited a lot of examples, not just with the clothing or everything, but like just general like examples that, oh yeah, I remember like this particular thing that yeah, men can use this much better without problems, whereas if you're a woman, you have to think of like certain things that men don't really need to think about. So it is an unfair world for women sometimes.
Have you ever gotten mic'd up at a conference and they're like, "Oh, just put this in your pocket." And I'm like, I'm wearing a dress.
Yeah, that's why.
Women don't tend to wear
Yeah.
clothing, unfortunately. And they're like, "Oh, I guess you can just hold it."
Yeah, even like women jeans, like I now it's much better, but like you know how small the jeans are,
Yeah.
women's pocket. But then if you look at the men's jeans, like they can fit whatever in there. But then
And
how
then they
come?
say, like, "Oh, you women, you always need bags." Yeah, because we don't have pockets.
Yes, that is exactly why. Oh my gosh. Oh, we've hit the 1 hour mark already. Yeah, so I hope you all found this episode insightful, and it's great, Ima, that you were able to join us. Hopefully we can have you again for the future episodes. But yeah, for now, thank you everyone for tuning in, and yeah, hope everyone had it's gonna be Friday. Well, it is Friday now. Yeah, so
Yes.
everyone, yeah, have a good weekend ahead.
Thanks, Emma, for joining us. Thanks,
What's
everyone.
up,
See you next
everyone?
time.
Very well.
Bye, thank
See you.
you.